sent 2 weeks notice and got fired immediately. So my parents have working for this company for almost a year, and last week due to some family issues, they sent 2 weeks notice to their manager and got fired immediately that day. Is that a normal? It's common indeed. Notices are a courtesy and will not be afforded to you as an employee. File for unemployment if they aren't paying them out for the last 2 weeks. You've been terminated. You didn't resign. You informed them of the date you would be resigning. If they fire you before that date, it's a termination and you are eligible for unemployment. Source: handed in my 4-week and work let me go after 2 weeks trying to claim it wasn't a termination and that company policy let them do it. I am now collecting unemployment. Yes, it is. If you're giving notice, remember, they are not required to even think about doing the same for you. In fact, a lot of companies will make it effective immediately to get you out of the company without a chance to cause any trouble. Personally, I would just let them know I'm leaving. Pack my stuff and go. Fair is fair. That's why you just quit because of shit like this. Some companies, for security reasons and not want an employee that is not happy working there, have a standard policy to escort them out of the building. My wife went through this back in 2018 as she was part of a RIF reduction in force with 20 other employees. She and the others were escorted out of the building and they sent my wife's personal effects to our house via courier. She was devastated by that treatment as she was a great employee, with great reviews, but one of the last hired. Yes. While there may be exceptions, the rule is now to give no notice as employers will frequently terminate you immediately. Employers like to say otherwise, but notice is a two-way street and employees don't receive it unless there's a contractual obligation. It's not unheard of. As long as they pay them, that's all that matters. It's common. Good, that just means you can file for unemployment. Happened to me a couple of times. I think they do it to cheat you out of work. Joke's on them. Good news. Instead of quitting, you have been let go, meaning you can apply for unemployment. I had a boss do that for me a few years ago. I've seen this happen, and when it does I say run to the unemployment office. If the last call was to fire them, then they are entitled to unemployment. The owner of my company admitted to my face that he does this to protect assets. I'd what that means, but I do know I will not be putting in a notice, doing nails. My last manager said he would just let someone go if they put in their 2-week notice because he didn't trust they wouldn't steal. So when I was ready to quit, I just did it instead of putting in a notice. I couldn't risk him screwing with my finances. This is why I don't give notice. I quit on time for my insurance. So after the first of the month, but so I still have a good month worth of insurance left. If I submit a 2-week notice and they fire me, then I lose my insurance a month early. Fuck that. In my last job, account executive for a wholesale mortgage bank, this was common practice. They did not accept 2-week notices because in sales roles like that, they know you aren't giving 100 anymore if you're on your way out. It was a very competitive sales environment. When I started to look for new jobs, I kept it quiet because they fired someone else for taking a day off to interview elsewhere. I mentally planned my last 2 weeks and started to clean out my desk little by little. I took my last PTO days and then never showed up again. We are so fucked, y'all. Depends on the industry. I know if you work in insurance and you leave, they'll just escort you out so you can't bring clients. Pretty much anything similar will be like that as a standard practice. But it also seems like more companies in general are just doing that. So fuck them and fuck their 2 weeks. It's common if the employee has access to sensitive information like pricing schedules, etc. Usually the company will just pay them for the 2 weeks. That's why it's helpful to pay attention to what happens when employees leave. If you know people are usually walked out, give a 3-week notice. It's common. Notice is supposed to be a courtesy, but most companies fire you immediately so they mitigate risk of you messing things up. Remember, they won't give you notice of firing you, so unless there's a good reason, you don't need to give notice of leaving. No employer I've ever had has given me 2 weeks notice. I return that favor. It's shit. They can likely receive employment insurance though. Every time I changed jobs I wished they would have just sent me home. But I guess I did spend my final 2 weeks doing as little as possible, because what are they gonna do? Fire me? Everyone say it with me. Hey boss, just wanted to let you know today will be my last day. Learn it, love it, live it. Work gave them free unemployment benefits. Must be the USA. Pulling a stunt like that is totally illegal here in the UK. So the employer might put you on gardening leave, meaning they pay you to sit at home for the notice period. Happened to me once for a frequently sued media organization. Typically being let go after filing 2 weeks warrants you pay. I never give 2-week notices. It's a courtesy to them that they don't owe me. This happened to me at my last job. At my current job, when I leave I won't give any notice. If they had given a single one of my co-workers notice, I would. They can't have it both ways. It's very common because people are jerks. If someone turns in their 2 weeks notice, they will often poach clients, badmouth the company, and even possibly sabotage the company. Also, you can get a boss that is just a jerk. But in the US, 2 weeks notice is a courtesy in most places. Yep. We need to just skip the 2-week notice. I once gave a 3-month notice to give them to find a replacement. They chose someone that did not want the job and ghosted them the second day. I managed to hook them up with my sister-in-law before leaving. Told them she was a good person to hire because she needed a job. Single with 2 kids, guaranteed she would show up and do the work. This happens to every single person at my work. Doesn't matter who they are or the relationship they have with the employer. I'm off on sick leave right now and I won't be surprised if I get let go when I try to return also. It can depend on the company and what the work is like. IT. They don't want the IT person to screw things up. One job I had, everyone who put in their 2 weeks, were let go the same day. I had a job starting Monday, and gave my 2 weeks on Thursday. Friday came and nothing. Finally said to my boss, by the way, I won't be in every again. It's very common in a position where there is some risk associated with their continued performance. Though it would typically come with pay for the final 2 weeks. Totally normally. We work with highly confidential information. If an employee is leaving under poor circumstances, we may not honor their 2 weeks and just let them go with. However, we'd still pay them out until their resignation date, including any leftover vacation time. This is totally normal, though how common it is depends a lot on company and industry. That said, your parents are still entitled to 2 weeks pay and benefits coverage. It's not uncommon. But it's actually not so bad for the employee, as being fired grants employees access to unemployment which the employer pays into. Anyway, companies are scummy and insecure about intellectual, proprietary property and fear that employees who are leaving will do something mischievous. People need to stop giving 2 weeks notice. Businesses are swallowing people alive and we are still being civil. It's common and it's weird. I do not get it. Like they're just shooting themselves in the foot. They're purposely and knowingly going down staff with no backup. It makes no sense. But it happens a lot. This is why you don't give 2-week notice anymore. Corporate culture has basically taken away all the humanity of working. Never put in your 2 weeks notice unless you're contractually obligated or if you're okay not working the next 2 weeks. Well, since they are now fired without cause and didn't resign, they should apply for unemployment. In 25 years of work, 70 of the time I have seen people give 2 weeks notice they have been shown the door same day. The only exception would be for roles where it was unexpected or they needed the prior employee for training because they didn't know how to do it. It happens sometimes. Get that unemployment going.